Hi, I'm Owen from Bitesize Irish Gaelic.com, and today I'm joined by Karen Osberg, who's a leader of an Irish Gaelic study group in Des Moines in Iowa. And I'm talking to her because as part of their learning methods, I think they're using bite-size maybe as some part of their lessons. But hi Karen, how are you?
Hi Owen, I'm fine. How are you?
It'd be nice to talk about how you approach learning the Irish Gaelic language, but can you tell me first how come you're interested in learning the language in the first place? Because Karen Osberg is not exactly the most Irish name I've heard.
That's true. However, I do know that my family is from Ireland on both sides, my mother's side and my father's side, and we come from Northern Ireland. We come from the south of Ireland. Some of my ancestors came in the 16 and 1700s, so it wasn't anything recent for most of them. But so that's the connection, and I find that all of my students in the study group have some kind of ancestral connection to Ireland. And the way I approach it is with a lot of encouragement. It's a difficult language to learn, and I think learners need to be gentle with themselves and encourage themselves and be encouraged by their teachers as well.
So the people in your study group, would they have spoken a word of Irish Gaelic before they came to this group, or what's their background in general?
Not one of them had ever even spoken it, and I'm not sure that any of them had even heard it, to be honest.
And why would somebody then decide to join an Irish Gaelic study group?
You know, other than the ancestral connection, I think it's something very interesting to do. It is it's a bit of a brain teaser, isn't it? It's not a language that very many people typically even think about, and yet if it's on your mind, you're very keen and interested in learning what to do and what to say and how to say it, especially how to say it.
And
I think it's just curiosity.
Is that what brought you to the language directly?
I'm sorry?
Is that why you started learning the language? I mean, most people might have heard of Gaelic, potentially.
You know, the way I started was 10 years ago. I was in a job where I had free internet access. I mean, I was not restricted in my internet access. And so when I would come into work early, I would listen to Radio Ulster on the BBC. And so I would listen to Hugo Duncan and shows like that. And then I started to fiddle around, and I found, over the years, I found things like shows in Irish, radio shows that is, and then I found teaching tools. 10 years ago, it was a lot more intimidating in my mind than it is now. I don't know when some of their other helps came about, but I first went through the BBC. I don't so much anymore. But Colin and Cumberland and Get to Beg and things like that, those were really helpful tools over the years. But really it started because I was bored in the early morning on my job.
Cool. And you're right about the internet because, for example, there's Radio na Gaeltachta in Ireland and the TG Cahir, TG4 TV station that you can watch live online. And it's so much more open, I think, than just 5 years ago.
I imagine so. It's wonderful. We watch TG Cahir in the classroom.
Very good.
Yes.
So I'd encourage people watching this to check it out as well. And we can add a link to it around the video. So in your study group, like what do you do? Do you work off worksheets, or what's your general approach? You said you take it easy in little steps.
I do take it easy, and we've been doing this for 1 year and 1 month now, and I'm really very proud of my students. They've learned a lot more than they think they have. I started off using Progress in Irish because in Iowa there are 3 Irish language study groups. There's one on the eastern border. There's one in the middle of the state, and then there's one here in Des Moines, which is the capital of Iowa. And one of the other teachers had some information from Progress in Irish that were just worksheet handouts that he gave to me. And I struggled along until I found a grammar guide that's kind of like a teacher's help from Progress in Irish. We also, we do watch the television quite a bit. We have a man here, I can't remember where he's from right now, but he is from Ireland, and he has come to our group before, and he's going to come again this winter. And he does things, he's really funny, and he is very encouraging, and he checks our pronunciation, and he makes us speak to him in Irish, and he's very helpful. He also suggested that we watch sports shows, like live sports shows, to listen to the language as well, because it's kind of fast and excited.
Because there's Gaelic football and hurling, amongst others, that would be on TV.
It would have to be on television since we don't have it around here, but yeah, that would be good. I also, on TG Cahart, the shows have English subtitles, and I've made a little piece of paper that goes around my laptop, and it hides the subtitles, and they get really frustrated when I do that. But I like for them to listen to the language and to stop trying to translate it all the time. It doesn't really translate literally to English, so I want them to hear the language and not worry about the words themselves, but the sounds that the letters make.
So for somebody who's maybe not fortunate enough to live near a physical class, like, what would your first couple of tips be for them for learning the language?
Oh, honestly, I would recommend Bitesize Irish Gaelic.com. I have, as a matter of fact, I have just in the past 2 weeks, 2 people who are brand new. Now, my study group is small, and we've been doing this for a year, and so then I have people coming in who have, again, absolutely no exposure to the language, but they're interested, and I have recommended Bitesize Irish Gaelic to them both, because the lessons are structured in a logical, intuitive path, and they get to hear the language. The explanations within each lesson are really helpful because questions always arise. You start out with the alphabet, things like that, things that are really basic, but you really quickly bring the student to a point where they can have a beginner's conversation. I really do like that. I used to refer them to the BBC tools because that's where I started, but now really your website is the one that I think everybody should start with, because it's just fabulous in a way that the others maybe move too quickly or might be a little bit more intimidating. So I see those as a second and a third step for a real brand new beginner.
So for somebody really starting off, do you think a nice goal for them is that if they can have a very short conversation with Irish Gaelic introductions and just to maybe say their name, that's a really nice step to work towards anyway, right?
Yes, I do. I think it's the best thing. It also sort of gives you a sense of completion so that you can be encouraged because you've done something. You haven't just learned the alphabet or just learned how to count to 10. You actually could go to a class and introduce yourself. Yes, I think it's a great goal.
Yeah. Oh, just as a last question for you, what do you think is the hardest thing for somebody learning the language when they first encounter the language?
The letter combinations, I think, are what trip people up the most. I jokingly say that they forgot some of the letters, and so they combine the existing letters to give you the sounds that they forgot to give a letter for, if that makes sense. And I really just say that to make people laugh and put people at ease. But in a way, it's true. And then I segue directly into, for instance, BH, and the way it sounds when it's next to an A, the way it sounds when it's next to an I, and how then you're understanding that this isn't just a typical A through Z sort of language begins to unfold in your mind, and hopefully it's not a very intimidating way to
Yeah.
go into it.
What I argue, say to people is that, it doesn't look maybe to an English speaker how it's written, but there are rules there. So once you start learning some of the rules, you start to decipher some of the words.
Yes.
Great. Karen, so it was great talking to you. And if people are in Iowa or around Des Moines, how do they get in contact with you to find out more about your study group?
Our website is learnirishdemoines.blogspot.com, and the web address, the email address, is learn.irish.dsm@gmail.com.
Perfect. So whoever's interested should contact Karen. If you don't happen to be as lucky to be near the study group, I suggest to you on BitesizeIrishGaelic.com to try out the free demo lesson, and if you are interested, join us even if only for 1 month. You'll have access to all of the 50 plus lessons that we have up there. So Karen, thanks a lot. Gurv Mahagut agus Slán Liat.
Slán.
Slán.